Hey everybody, welcome to Bura. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about how painting your roof white can help you reduce costs and possibly help fight climate change. Alright, welcome back. Before I start the video, make sure you like, subscribe. The more like subscribers you get, the more content we can make. Number one reason why you subscribe to this amazing YouTube channel is to get into the money-making trends before they go mainstream. So I was listening to a podcast a little while ago, and one of the things about this podcast is that the person was a very big Tesla fan, but then he said something that caught my attention. That thing was, well, if we just paint roofs white, that actually might have a better effect of reducing climate change than perhaps some of the things Tesla's doing. And then I said, wait a minute, well, that's really easy to do in theory. Then why aren't we doing it? So let's take a look at some of the breakthrough technologies that is making this possible. So scientists have made the whitest paint possible according to the Guinness Book of World Records, but they didn't do it for making a world record. They did it to perhaps reduce costs and fight climate change. So of course this depends on where you live, but in most places if you have a lot of sun, then that sun is basically cooking your building, whether it's your workplace or your home. So this would be good to reflect some of that heat out, and this is exactly what the paint is for. So the whitest paint will reflect a ton of heat away from your building. And this could be really potentially good, especially in areas that have a lot of sun. Now, if you live in the Pacific Northwest, like I do, then there isn't that much sun in the summer. However, the Pacific Northwest did experience a heat dome this summer, and if you don't know what a heat dome is where the jet stream is manipulated and the heat is basically locked in this kind of circular area. It's kind of the opposite of a polar vortex. Now, experiencing this heat dome was terrible, but it's not exactly usual weather, and hopefully it won't be usual weather going forward. So even the Pacific Northwest is experiencing more sun than usual. But if you live in a place like Texas or Arizona where there is lots of sun, then this is a very good technology. Now, if you are a business owner or own a home, you'll know that air conditioning costs are absolutely massive. Wouldn't it be great if you could at least lower the air conditioning costs by, well, reflecting some of the heat out? And this is exactly what this paint is supposed to do. This paint is supposed to reflect a lot of heat outside the house or business, and what that will do is that will make the inside cooler. Now, if you've been following this channel a lot, I usually talk about programming, and I usually say the simplest answer is the best answer, or if you can make things as low tech as possible, even if you're a programmer, that's the best way forward. Well, just simply painting your building is a good example of a low-tech solution that has immediate results. Now, of course, this is in contrast to what Tesla is doing, that is building solar panels and batteries. Now, to be fair, I do really like Tesla and what they're doing, but this is also good as well. If we really want to tackle climate change, it's going to have a lot of solutions. And this is a very low-tech solution that has real-world results, because getting people to just simply paint buildings this white color is something that's really easy to do. It's so easy that you could get volunteers to start painting buildings. Remember, if you want to tackle any kind of solution, you do have to figure out the people that are going to help you get there. And the lower skilled the task, the more people you can get. It's just that simple. Now, painting is a low skilled task. Now, just because I say painting is a low skilled task doesn't mean that it's not important. Just because something is low skilled doesn't mean it's not important. And painting is important because, well, I recently painted this room and I hired someone to do it, and it was a really good job done. So like I said, if you want to start a business, you have to think about the people that are going to do it. And if you find lower skilled tasks to do your job, then you'll probably have an easier time making that product succeed. Now, believe it or not, reflecting the heat outside does cause some other problems. That is, the outside becomes a lot more hot than the inside because, well, that heat is, well, going to the atmosphere versus to your house. But that's still a win, because to cool down your house, it does take a lot of power, and of course, power takes carbon in one way, shape, or form. Even if you have solar panels, it does take carbon, because it does take carbon to make those solar panels in the first place. Even if you're using nuclear power, it does take carbon to get that nuclear plant up and going first before you start becoming carbon neutral. This is what's known as payback. Every kind of renewable energy does have a payback amount, whether it's wind, solar, hydro, or perhaps even nuclear, even though nuclear is not necessarily renewable, but it is, well, basically one of the best options for climate change and carbon reduced emissions. Now, if a country really wants to win in the 21st century, I recommend going the nuclear route. The reason why I say this is because there is so much potential in nuclear technology. Most of the nuclear power plants in the globe are very old. In fact, they're as old, if not older, than my parents. However, there haven't been a lot of new nuclear power plants built, but there's a lot of nuclear startups that are doing really amazing things. Now, remember that there are lots of ways to do nuclear power. There isn't just one way. There's dozens of possible ways that we can do this, and we only use one because, well, that's a story for a different time. Now, of course, there are a lot of nuclear startups that always need programmers because basically any kind of new technology will require programmers in some way, shape, or form. Now let's get back to the paint before we end this video. Whenever I try to find a solution, I try to find the simplest one, and sometimes the simplest one can be deceptively simple. Who would have thought that painting roofs white or buildings white, a very new shade and very bright shade of white, would actually have an effect on not only reducing your bill at the end of the month for cooling costs, but affecting climate change as well. And this is the kind of thinking that you want to get into. And the really good entrepreneurs that I know can think like this all the time. They can just basically say to themselves, what's the simplest solution? What's deceptively simple and how would that work? And lots of times these creative entrepreneurs will go through 100 ideas before they get to the right one. But this is a very cool technology, even though it's very simple. All right, so that concludes this video. I want to know your thoughts down below. Remember, this channel is Patreon said we sell our digital products down below. The more I get with the content that you buy below, the more content we can make. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.